It's like a soft tap on the shoulder. Hey, this layer's coming in, but it's not necessarily your focal point because it's almost duetting. Would you say competing? Or is everybody competing for the spotlight? And that's the charm of a jam band's style, right? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lone University. I can honestly say I've never sat down and willingly listened to the Grateful Dead. I couldn't name you a single one of their songs. Have I heard them out in the wild? Maybe. I know when John Mayer came on board with Dead and Company and did the tour, I saw a few clips of that circulating online, but beyond that, I virtually know nothing about this band other than they are a staple, they are an iconic band, and who hasn't heard of the name? I know a lot of people who absolutely love this band, and using a few context clues over the years, I can surmise that there's a cult following involved. There's no casual fandom with the Grateful Dead. They are their own world, their own subculture, especially when you call yourself a Deadhead. I just wasn't within any sort of musical proximity to that scene. I was never into other jam bands like Phish and such, so this is going to be a new avenue for me, but after the passing of bassist Phil Lesh, almost exactly 1 year ago, my comments lit up with questions of, why haven't you done the Grateful Dead here on the channel? So better late than never, we're finally here today. Their song Scarlet Begonias was a track I saw requested quite a lot in the comments, and it's from their 7th studio album, From the Mars Hotel, released in 1974. And it was actually the same year they took a then indefinite hiatus from live touring, which apparently didn't last very long. Anyway, let's check it out. Here's Scarlet Begonias from the Grateful Dead. Yeah, very vintage sound. I knew that much, but
I was walking round Grosvenor Square. Not a chill to the winter, but a nip to the air. From the other direction, she was calling my eye. It could be an illusion, but I might as well try. Might as well try.
So the thing about this band is that, I mean, I could assume what they sounded like. And again, I've seen some clips, but just not enough to say I've heard this band. And I think the thing with me, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in other videos, but I grew up fairly religious. Like, I had my grandparents, anything that resembled like smoking pot and 70s and hippie, it was just like kind of excluded from my childhood for a while. And some bands got through. With my dad's record collection, my stepdad turned me on to Rush and Van Halen and such. But those early years, I just missed out on a lot of things. But despite that, a lot of bands that sound like this, Allman Brothers and stuff, I was into that. So I just, for whatever reason, they just didn't come across my radar at the time. But again, this reggae sound, I mean, this is a blend of so many things I did like. Another thing about the Grateful Dead is I know they didn't really fit into any one box, and they were very hard to categorize, almost defying genre. But I'm gonna have to pull this tone way back. My last video was on Tool, so I'm gonna turn this overdrive off. I'm actually going to boost the bass, take some of the presence out, scoop the mids a bit, and kind of pump up the bass, and much smoother, right? So kind of here in B major, really uplifting. Again, vocalist reminds me a lot of Allman Brothers, a band I really liked. Didn't know a ton of their music, but that's sort of my comparison on first listen here, first impressions. Let's go back to about right here.
Direction, she was calling my eye. It could be an illusion, but I
it's got that reggae thing, sort of, the guitars.
Scarlet Begonias tucked into her curls. I knew right away she was not like other girls, In the thick of the evening when the dealer got rough.
Yeah, I mean, this is a comment I would make if I were reviewing Sublime, which is another band I've just really gotten into here on the channel. I've only done one song and then their new song they released. But my comment about that style of bass playing is that it's incredibly real time. It's very reactive to what's going on in the music. And it doesn't follow any sort of framework, maybe outside of the chord progression itself, but it's almost like every feel is a little different. There's just a certain type of freedom with that type of bass playing. It's almost what you would call 1 foot out the door being the line between hugging root notes and staying within a strong framework and not deviating to just kind of soloing the whole time. So it's this 1 foot out the door thing where you're kind of hanging on to the piece and keeping it held down, but you're also, expressing a lot of melodic freedom within your bass line. So that's a cool tightrope to walk. And when you're in a jam band environment, I'm sure that's, anything goes, right? So I'm gonna go back here. Some nice fills happening. They go pretty high up. I like the guitar going up and getting that flat 7. Keeps it pretty bluesy in a way too. It's almost their way of retaining that blues element. Because a walking bass line in B would be... You don't really hear that framework, right? There's just a little nod to it in some of those guitar leads. So just a cluttery kind of arrangement. A lot of little things popping around. The vocals I find are very subdivided, and sometimes I talk about this concept of a lot going on and the vocals being simpler and having that contrast. But here we have just a lot going on. It's a lot to take in. When you close your eyes and listen to each little layer, they're all telling a unique story. And I'm really trying to fish for the bass part in my ear. Sometimes it blends with the lower end bass frequency of the clean guitar, so it's just almost smeary in a way. And there's a charm to not being able to pick out everything so hi-fi, right? Definitely a live band. I get that sentiment here.
She was too packed to open and too cool to plug. As I picked up my matches and was close
down to A.
I had one of those flashes. I've been there before, been there before. Well, I ain't up right, but I would never
That's a
been
5.
wrong. Seven turns out the way it does in the song.
So we've been kind of vamping in this 3-chord progression. B major, A, E. So it's almost like, I don't know, it's that ambiguity of what key is it really in. And I'm sure I could look at all the guitar parts and figure it out, but my ear tells me it's in B, goes up to the 4 on E, maybe jumps up to the 7 chord and makes it major in that A major, but then we have the F sharp major that just came in here, so that could mean it's in E, but they, riding the line of this modal interchange where it's in B, A, or E, that's just one sharp difference, but not super important here, just for me to talk to myself about what's going on here musically. Okay.
Once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. Well, there ain't nothing wrong with
That was kind of an elongated bass fill that's pretty slick. Just how I like how he resolved that. Whew. Tasty stuff.
There ain't nothing wrong with the way she moves. Or Scarlet Begonias are a touch of the blues. And there's nothing wrong with the look that's in her eye. I had to learn the hard way to let
See if it goes up to that F sharp again here. No, back to 1. watching a musical comet show, right? Shooting stars, just things kind of coming in from all different angles. The keys here, this little guitar lead that's not front and center. You know, guitars can be hard panned left and right. Solos usually are put mono up the middle, but I have a solo here in the left channel, so it's like a soft tap on the shoulder. Hey, this layer's coming in, but it's not necessarily your focal point because it's almost duetting. Would you say competing? Or is everybody competing for the spotlight? And that's the charm of a jam band's style, right? The keys are going here. They have this left channel guitar lead. I guess left channel's over there. But you dig all that away, and the bass is still back there, just every few bars. So it's a lot to take in. It's, you know, it's not something you can really absorb on first listen other than the presentation of this is what we're about. So these are kind of fun bands to dissect. I think the thing I'm most curious about with a band like this is when you lean into the label of being a jam band, what's it like in the studio? Is everything spawned from a spontaneous live jam? Because there has to be some structure with the vocals and the verse, chorus, and that type of thing. Or is it a jam is just produced instrumentally? Vocals are added to whatever may come from that jam. So the writing process of bands like this is very interesting to me. And coming from more of a jazz background early on, those two can have some parallels there, but jazz very much has a structure beneath the madness. You know, it may sound random and improvised, but there's definitely like a head to go back to. It's really just long solo sections that are extended. But with a jam band, it almost seems like the song structure itself might be what you jam on. So I know very little about jam band culture, that style. But what I was going to say was it almost presents itself in the way that you don't even notice the vocals stopped. There's so many things to jump in and take its place in the spotlight. And for a second, I'm like, oh, didn't even realize the vocals stopped. So this is an interesting type of band to digest and analyze here. So see, they're kind of like trading fours almost. You know, it's pretty cool. Okay. Nice impact back in there.
The sky was yellow and the sun was blue. Strangers stopping strangers just to shake their hand. Everybody's playing.
I even like how the bass is spending a lot of time up here, which is sort of where some of these guitar layers are living. They often present as each other. Sometimes I'll hear this little fill come in and I'm like, oh wait, that's guitar, never mind. And sometimes when you have a smoother bass sound, a clean guitar channel sound, playing in the same range, it just produces this melodic ambiguity between who's doing what. Those are fun things to digest. It's often songs like that I go back and I'm like, wow, I had no idea the bass was doing so much there. Or I'll go in and go, wow, I had no idea the bass was so basic there. It was actually the guitar part. Fun things to listen to for me.
In the heart of gold band, heart of gold band.
It almost sounded like vocals. Is it? Wow. Some high falsetto? Shit, I don't know. Coming in with these high, soaring oohs and ahs, if you will. If that's not a vocal line there, it very much damn sounds like it. It's a cool, unexpected layer to come in here at the end of the song when the vocals have been what they are, just very lacking range. That's not a bad thing, but just, you know, vocalist very much in the style, kind of in one octave, and, you know. So I'm going to feel like an idiot if that's not a vocal line, but whatever instrument that is, I'm assuming it's vocals, it has a really cool intensity to bring in here in the last, 30 seconds. Yeah. Could almost be like one of those in the distant Robert Plant things in like a Zeppelin song. Very cool. Grateful Dead. I think the most interesting thing I read before starting this video about the Grateful Dead and, well, Phil Lesh, their late bass players, that he primarily used a 6-string bass towards the end of the band's tenure. And it wasn't really worth mentioning because I read here he didn't start until 1982, but I played 6-string bass for a long time, and I'm almost interested to come back soon to hear a track where that was prominently used and explored, because 6-string bass can be a very expressive instrument now that I have a better idea of their layering and this sort of no space in the composition approach, just everything at 10 in a way, but still in a gentle, subdued way. I'm very curious to see how much more can be added with a 6-string bass and the approach you sort of take there melodically. There's just a lot of stuff. So please, my next Grateful Dead song, let me know the coolest Phil Lesh Grateful Dead song played with a 6-string bass. I'm very curious to hear that. And to be honest, I can't think of any other band or bass player that was using 6-string bass back then in the early 80s. That's very intriguing. And I read that and I'm like, do I got to get my 6-string out for this video? Well, he hadn't started using it yet, so I just pulled out the 4-string. But again, this band is comprised of so many familiar sounds to me, despite just never having been on my radar. So I'm sure there's a ton to dive into. I mean, looking at their discography on Wikipedia, it was like endless. So let me know where to go next, preferably something with the 6-string. I'm just very curious to see how that was applied in this style. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us over on Patreon, patreon.com/LoneUniversity. We do full albums like this every month. They get voted on by our community, who are comprised of over 1,000 now, 1,000 strong. Come hang out with us. I also have bass lessons, music theory lessons. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I love you all. We'll see you in the next one.